Oh, whoa, nah. Whoa, nah. Shalom, everybody. Shalom, shalom, shalom. What's the business? How y'all doing? Welcome back to the next episode of Reading with SHILO. How y'all doing tonight? How y'all doing, man? I feel like reading and ready to get into the medical apartheid so we can journey on into chapter 3. Circus Africanus. The popular display of black bodies. In the medical apartheid, the dark history of medical experimentation on black Americans from colonial times to the present by Miss Harriet A. Washington, which so far the first two chapters have been, man, anything. Had a lot going on, a lot of experimentations and humbug. Pink people shenanigans. Oh man, but this is going good. We are moving along. We have dove into this. We have set sail. We have set sail on the page, on the sea pages of the medical apartheid. So, but yeah, man. Shoot. I hope everybody's doing wonderful today. I am. But before we get into, man, we gotta work our body, work our mind, and then work our body again. But our mind for sure. But we're gonna work our body. 25 things. Give me 25 things. Get up. Hurry up. Get up. Get off your ass. Get off your ass and give me 25. Drop and give me 25. Get up. Do something. Do something, Don't matter what it is, something. Just don't pick no food up to your mouth. Don't do that. Even if it's 25 stretches, 25 up stretches, side stretches, 25, do 25, do 25. Jumping jacks, 25. Give me 25 something, and I'm going to give you 25 something. Yeah, let me get me. Let me get me 25 something. I'm gonna use my little thing today. 25 something. And then we're gonna read about the medical apartheid. So get off your ass and do something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Make sure you're doing it for real. 17, whatever you're doing. 18. Don't cheat yourself. 19, 20. Make sure you feel it. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Let's start somewhere, man. It ain't gotta be nothing big. You ain't gotta be trying to lift the house. Shit. You gotta lift the house. Just start somewhere. Start somewhere, man. So appreciate it. Been good. I've been good. Shalom. Shalom, everybody. Welcome. I've been trying to be on this workout routine. Shit. I'm trying to incorporate I've been trying to be more consistent. That's what I've been trying to work on. Being more consistent. And in just not just the reading, but even in my workouts, be more consistent. And then I can bring y'all into it. 25 things ain't nothing. So let's get up and do something together. And then we all gonna look strong together as I become destroyer of worlds and continue to read. So let's get in and but I'm not my bench in the room, but I'm only doing stuff, that we can do right here. Right here. I ain't bringing it into the bench. If I'm on bench, I'm gonna use that little what that is, them resistance bands, But anyway, we about to bench this book. That's what we gonna do. We about to bench The Medical Apartheid by Harriet A. Washington. Chapter 3 is what we're about to get into. Circus Africanus. Circus Africanus. Whatever words I come across, if you're new here, if this is your first time coming through, I appreciate it. Shalom, welcome, like, comment, and subscribe. So if this is your first time, when I come across words that I do not know or I have trouble pronouncing, rock with me. We're gonna look them up. I'm gonna pull out my dictionary. We're gonna write them down. We're gonna look them up. We're gonna see what's going on. We're gonna see what they're talking about to try to understand the sentence or what's being said within a paragraph to see if we can get it better. But let's get it. So be prepared. Rock with me. Let's roll and let's take this journey. The medical apartheid. Chapter 3. Circus Africanus. The popular display of black bodies. The Negro with us is not an actual physical being of flesh and bones and blood, but a hideous monster of the mind, ugly behind all physical portraying, and so utterly and ineffably monstrous as the frightening reason from its throne, and justice from its balance, and mercy from all hallowed temple, and to blot out shame and probity, and the eternal sympathies of nature. So far as these things have presence in the breast of or being of American Republicans. Oh no, sir. It is a constructive Negro, a John Roe and Richard Doe Negro that haunts with grim presence the precincts of this republic, shaking its gory locks over legislative halls and family prayers. James McCune Smith, MD. All right, let me get situated. All right. By 1904, swashbuckling missionary explorer Samuel Phillips Verner had acquired a venerable Noah's Ark of exotic fauna during 3 trips to the interior of the Dark Continent. The last expedition was commissioned in 1903 by St. Louis Exposition Company, which paid the South Carolina-born Verner to hunt men instead of monkeys. He was to bring African pygmies to America for display. He was the zoo catcher. He was to bring African pygmies to America for display at the St. Louis World's Fair. Say it again. Say it again. Yes, sir. Let me read this paragraph. Let me read this paragraph. Do not throw your bowl. Let me read the paragraph, and I'm gonna come fix y'all some more right quick. All right. All right. I got you, son. I got you. So I'm gonna get to this paragraph. I'm gonna go fix my son's a second plate right quick, and I'm gonna come back. So don't go nowhere. But let's get here. Upon his return to America, Verner found himself romanticized as the reincarnation of Dr. David Livingstone, who he claimed as his posthumous mentor. As an ordinary minister in the Presbyterian Church, Verner was also lionized in church circles as an imparter of morality to the Congo natives he doggedly hectored at the Southern Presbyterian Missionary House in Lubo, chiding them for their immodest dress and sexual behavior. His American admirers did not know that between 1895 and 1899, Verner had fathered a daughter and son on the African orphan girl there. By 1906, the World's Fair was over, and the cash-strapped Verner was selling off his animals, artifacts, and more. And upon the receipt of financial gift, he bestowed a prize equatorial specimen upon William T. Hornady, director of the Bronx Zoological Gardens. Vernon's present was 23-year-old Ota Benga and Mabuti widower, from Southern Africa, in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Around 1903, Benga had returned from a haunting trip, only to find his village in smoking ruins and his wife, children, and entire tribe slaughtered by forced public thugs supported by the Belgian government. Banga himself was seized and sold into Werner's hands. Hornaday's view about the natives of sub-Saharan Africa mirrored Werner's own, conscripting Darwin in the service of racism. He told the New York Times that there exists a close analogy of the African savage to the apes. Scientific America agreed. The Congo pygmies are small, ape-like elfish creatures, furtive and mischievous. These closely parallel the brownies and goblins of our fairy tales. They live in a dense tangled forest in the absolute savagery, while there exist many ape-like features in their bodies. Give me a second. Let me go fix my boys another plate right quick. I'm gonna be less than a minute. I ain't gonna take long. Hold on, excuse me. I gave you what you needed. All right, my bad, y'all. I'm back. Let's get back. I shouldn't have to stop. All right. There we go. But Hornaday espoused a more progressive vision as a scientific artist. And we have him to thank for the modern American zoo. As chief taxidermist of the National Museum, the Smithsonian, a position he held until 1890, he had inherited a static mausoleum of tatty taxidermy enshrined on plaster pedestals with only laconic placards to suggest that the animal had been like in life. And in 1888, Hornady persuaded the museum to add a wing of living animals in lifelike settings, which proved so popular in Revolution that it became the National Zoological Gardens. He resigned over differences of vision, but in 1896 he reemerged as the first director of the New York Zoological Gardens, known as the Bronx Zoo. Is that so? The Bronx Zoo. The world's largest, luscious, and most varied zoo. Hornady's passion was for colorful. Ooh, this is a word right here. There we go. Colorful verisimilitude in the recreation of his animals' natural habitats. With a verdant Bronx Park as his canvas, Hornady installed colorful exotic animals of every genus grouped with their natural companions amid native vegetation. So when Benga was locked in the monkey house, before the starring crowd and with keepers always nearby, he was given a bow and arrow to brandish. His cage was littered with bones, and his two cage mates were Dina, a gorilla, and an orangutan called Duhong. The placard on Banga's enclosure read, "The African Pygmy, Ota Banga, height 4'11", weight 103 pounds, brought from the Kasai River, Congo Free State, South Central Africa by Dr. Samuel P. Werner. Exhibited each afternoon during September. A September 10th New York Times headline trumpeted, Bushman shares a cage with the Bronx Park apes. Black New Yorkers were incensed, and representatives of the clergy, led by the Reverend Dr. MacArthur, pressed Mayor George B. McClellan to withdraw the city's support from the exhibit. As another minister, a Reverend Gordon, told the New York Times, "Our race is depressed enough without exhibiting one of us with the apes. We think we are worthy of being considered human beings with souls." Not to them, my boy. The Times turned an unsympathetic ear to African Americans' objections. One reverend colored brother objects to the curious exhibition on the grounds that it is an impious effort to lend credibility to Darwin's dreadful theories. The reverend colored brother said should be told that evolution is not taught in the textbooks of all the schools, and that it is no more debatable than the multiplication table. The swipe at creationism did not address Gordon's immediate concerns, but did hit a nerve among many whites who shared Gordon's outrage. Some were angered by his inhuman insults to blacks, and others who opposed the teachings of Darwin's theories of evolution were afraid that Banger's dramatic presence would offer a powerful plebeian argument for the theory of evolution. The entertainment of a monkey man might persuade people who were untouched by the theory's scientific merits. And Mayor McClellan snubbed the black delegation, referring them to the Parks Department, and another Times account hinted that Banger differed little from the zoo animals. Ota Banger is a normal specimen of his race or tribe, with a brain as much developed as are those of its other members, and can be studied with profit. The Pygmies are an efficient people in their native forests, but they are very low in the human scale, and the suggestion that Banger should be in a school instead of a cage ignores the high probability that school would be a place of torture for him, and one from which he could draw no advantage whatever. A lively epistolatory debate ensued in the pages of the Times, heavily weighted in favor of retaining Banger, and many of the letters were signed by respondents with MD and PhD degrees. I bet, because y'all want to study this book. Just like cheap labor. Y'all want to study that book. Y'all want to study Ota Banger. Keep his ass in there. That's what y'all want. But if I put your ass in there, study. Let's study. Times journalists agree that Banger provided a valuable... My bad. I'll skip some. One doctor suggested it is a pity that Dr. Hornady does not introduce a system of short lectures or talks in connection with his exhibitions to help our clergymen to familiarize themselves with the scientific point of view so foreign to many of them. Times journalists agree that Banger provided a valuable tool for illustrating basic evolutionary precepts. To oppose him intermittent was to oppose science. Get away. These precepts included physical similarities to the lower primates that scientific racism was beginning to popularize widely. Anthropometric portraits of blacks and apes demonstrated how blacks' facial angles, stature, stance, and gait resembled those of monkeys, chimpanzees, and orangutans. Blacks' hair or wool was compared to animal pelts. Yeah, hair like wool. That's what the Bible says Christ had. Hair like wool. Let me want to mark that. hair like wool. That's right. God-like hair. Blacks' hair or wool, they considered it wool. Blacks' hair or wool was compared to animal pelts. Such uncomplimentary images were published in scientific journals, and they still have that in our mind, in people's mindsets today, man. They still have that. The Willie Lynch thing for real. You know how parents kind of shame their children because of their hair. They'll shame their daughters because they don't want to do their daughter's hair. They don't know how to do their hair, let alone do their daughter's hair. They don't really take care of their son's hair. And even if they want to let it grow out, a lot of times it'd be jealousy too. Jealous that the child hair would be better than theirs. But it's still a thought, like even my grandfather right now, when I go over there and my boys will go over there, he always wanted to cut our hair. He always wants to cut our hair. But that thought process of how bad your hair is lingering. It's still lingering. You can see if all the weave and all this stuff, it's still a lingering thought. It's a heavy lingering thought, a heavy lingering hurdle.
Down full. I read a little bit sausages. I already full now.
Excuse me. Well, hey, leave it on the counter. Make sure you clean up your mess at the table if there is one. And you go ahead back in the room. Don't you? Hey, just put it on the counter. I'll check it. I'll check it when I'm done. Such uncomplimentary images were published in scientific journals and would soon adorn children's textbooks. Scientists allege that apes preferred to mate with black women, just as black men lusted after white women, their own evolutionary betters. Man. At the zoo, the Times revealed that Banga's situation was escalating. There were 40,000 visitors at the park on Sunday, and nearly every man, woman, and child in this crowd made for the monkey house to see the star attraction in the park, the wild man from Africa. They chased him about the grounds all day, hollering, jeering, and yelling. Some of them poked him in the ribs. Others tripped him up. All laughed at him. Finally, Banga retaliated by attacking visitors with a knife and a bow and arrow, and the zoo ejected him. Good, get your freedom. Give us free. Black New Yorkers organized collection, which was insufficient to return him home as he wished, but provided enough to cap his foul teeth and send him to the Virginia Theological Seminary and College, where he proved himself an able student. Banga then found work in Lynchburg, Virginia tobacco factory, where he fit in well as an efficient worker and a beloved Pied Piper who taught local children to fish and to hunt. But he spoke often and tearfully of wishing to return home to the Congo. And when he realized he could never save enough for passage, his depression became profound. And in 1916, Banga committed suicide. Damn, Banga just wanted to go home. With the ubiquitous icon of Western technological advancement, a handgun. Hornady had the last word in his obituary of Banga, which appeared in the Zoological Bulletin, took a semi-comic tone, and was filled with uncomplimentary untruths that fit his racist agenda. Now, Banga's tragedy illustrates how American scientists found black bodies useful even when they were not trying new medications or surgeries. This chapter focuses upon the popular public display and imaging of black bodies, but the boundary separating popular display from medical display was a porous one, a permeable membrane of copious copious migration in both directions. Some medicalized freaks, body types, were exclusive to blacks who had a patent on white Negroes, and the United States a near monopoly on primitive peoples. Even the black idiot savants, a perennial attraction, was considered more freakish than the white variety because his intellectual gifts offered a great contrast to blacks' ostensibly low intelligence. Oh, man. In the late 18th century, long before the 1859 publication of The Origin of Species, medical researchers had addressed scientific questions regarding human hierarchies by displaying black bodies in contexts that emphasized supposed parallels to animals and children, even as black scientists and abolitionists used the same bodies to illustrate the intimate kinship between whites and blacks. Unusual or exotic black bodies also provided widely popular entertainment with a medical flavor. Alert entrepreneurs from P.T. Barnum to Harvard's Louis Agassiz exploited them for profit and fame. And whether one was gawking at a white Negro, a 161-year-old black wet nurse, 161? 161. 161-year-old wet nurse. Ooh, come on, body. You can do it. You can do it. 200. Let's get it. 200. It's on us, baby. We can do it. We're going to be alive with my papa. He said he ain't going nowhere to 200. And he's 91 now. Whether one was gawking at a white Negro, a 161-year-old black wet nurse, an African giantess, or a Hottentot missing link in a cage, the subject was usually forced to display his body. He may have been a slave, a freak with an anomalous body, or a kidnapped freedman. However, a few enterprising souls offered themselves up for pay, especially in the early days of quasi-scientific displays. Advertisements for myself, Henry Moss. Now, around 1790, when Henry Moss realized that his body had embarked upon a mystifying transformation into whiteness, he cut out the middleman and exhibited himself. I'm out here. Get it, Henry. Unlike later sideshow freaks, who had to remain mute while barkers trumpeted the manufactured exotica that passed for their life stories, Moss was his own barker, proudly straddling a museum chair or slowly strolling the stage of a saloon. Moss peeled the linen from his variegated body in a tantalizing medical striptease while he unreeled his own story. From his humble but free 1754 birth in Goochland County, Virginia, to his Revolutionary War exploits as a soldier in South Carolina and Virginia, to the mysterious gradual lightening that was spreading his fame, Moss spoke for himself before enraptured crowds in Philadelphia taverns and museums, charging 25 cents per person, heady fees for 1796, the year he addressed the American Philosophical Society. Moss became the familiar figure even in Europe, where his piebald visage graced chocolates and German almanacs. President George Washington was a face in the throng when Moss appeared at the Mr. Leach's Tavern, the sign of the Black Horse in Philadelphia in 1796. and so were prominent racial theorists of the day, including that Reverend Samuel Stanhope Smith and the entrenched Benjamin Rush, MD, who is now remembered as the father of the American psychiatry, and who then believed that black skin was the manifestation of a type of leprosy that he called nigritude. You got that nigritude? Oh, I got that nigritude. I'm out you with nigritude. Nigritude. Calling blacks lepers certainly sounds like the pronouncement of the inveterate races, and this is how Rush is sometimes regarded. However, Rush was not a racist, but a passionate abolitionist, and his views of black physiology were nuanced. Rush believed that blacks were diseased, but they could be cured. He welcomed the various albinos. Lucio Theopes, and vitiligo-stricken white Negroes as hopeful monsters, living proof that blacks could become healthily whites. Cure was desirable, averred Rush, because eliminating black skin would eliminate the chief social and religious argument for enslavement, and because he believed blacks themselves preferred white skin. Some do. Some do still to this day. If they did then, they do still to this day. They hate themselves. They think of their skin as a curse. That's why in certain countries you have, like Jamaica was one of them. I think Jamaica was one. Haiti and places in Africa as well, where they, having a bad epidemic of skin lightening. Love you. Love you. Rush hungered to understand and hoped to duplicate the process by which Negro skin lost its color. And he theorized that pressure and friction, violent rubbing, could banish color from the rent mucosum, the fictional skin layer. And Rush never took up the scalpel against moss to test this theory. But he cataloged the methods that other physicians had used to whiten black skin and hair, including hypochloric acid, bleeding, purging, and juicing of unripe peaches, muriatic acid, and even pronounced fear. Rush did experiment with sulfuric acid on black skins, probably those of cadavers, though. And in late 1796, Rush's protege, Dr. Charles Caldwell, acquired Henry Moss in a manner that can be read as a disquieting infringement upon Moss's freedom. I took him in some measure under my care, procured for him suitable lodgings and accommodation, induced many persons to visit him, and kept him under my strict and constant observation, and by his permission, and for a slight reward, emphasis added, made on him such experiments as suited my purpose. Although Caldwell was careful to note that he obtained Moss's permission, one has only Caldwell's word that Moss willingly accepted the loss of anatomy, social status, and income in exchange for suitable but heavily monitored lodgings. I'm not convinced, in part because this scenario evokes an eerie parallel to one of the most infamous exploitative experimental relationships in history, that between Alexis St. Martin, a poor illiterate French-Canadian backwoods trapper, and Dr. Williams Beaumont, who used him as an experimental subject for 11 years, beginning in 1822. St. Martin was a consistently reluctant subject, but Beaumont portrayed him as a willing one. And also, Caldwell's veracity is suspect. And in his 1855 memoirs, for example, he falsely claimed that Moss's skin had regained its color. Caldwell forced moths to exercise vigorously in order to produce perspiration, which he examined closely for exuded color. And Caldwell also minutely recorded the expanding area of Moss's white skin, admitting that he could not find Moss's uh, mucosum, his rete mucosum, away from the gaze of scientists. Only anatomical dissection could find it. Now, Henry Moss was lost to history after he left Caldwell in 1796. His appetite for self-exhibition apparently sated, and within a decade, his brand of self-promotion became unthinkable. The display of black bodies was conducted in a more repressive atmosphere as black-white relations grew ever more acerbic, fed by abolitionist fervor, large-scale slave revolts, and legal challenges to slavery. In 1806, for example, a very dark-skinned male slave owned by Major Banks of Williamsburg, Virginia, began to turn white. Dr. Alexander D. Galt urged that he be displayed as a spectacle that would excite the curiosity and wonders of everyone. But the slave remained voiceless and unnamed. Moreover, physicians and owners controlled and transformed the nature of the bodies they displayed by enhancing the distinctiveness of their appearance and by showcasing them in a propagandistic environment that emphasized freakishness, evolutionary inferiority, and bestiality. Barker's invented fictionist histories that emphasized and displayed specimens' alien nature. The features of displayed blacks were used to locate blacks' low status on the supposed evolutionary continuum between monkeys and whites. And the paying hordes of voyeurs, museum curators, medical students, researchers, and professors at such medical circuses grew progressively more intrusive as gaping, sketching, photographing, and ribald taunts led inexorably to physical violation. Spectators palpated and measured labia and penile length and tittered as they asked demeaning questions about subjects' personal habits and sexual prowess. This prurience reached its heights in its display of the Hottentot Venuses. Delta of Venus. Swartzy Bartman, Saartjie. If one wonders how Otto Banger or anyone else could have clapped into a zoo in 20th century New York City, it is important to realize that there had been precedents. The most infamous medicalized display of the captive black befell Saartjie, pronounced Sartke. Good, I'm glad they put that there. Pronounced Sartke, or meaning little Sarah in Afrikaans. Oh, that's the lady. That's the lady with the big behind, the big caboose. Sarah Bartman. Sartke, and meaning little Sarah in Afrikaans, Bartman, who was born in 1789. The year of French Revolution produced the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Bartman was, like Banger, a member of the Coanchian hunting-gatherers. She lived in the southeastern Cape of Africa, in what is now South Africa. There, Bartman worked as a servant, perhaps an enslaved one, for Peter Caesar. for Peter Cesar, a colonist who handed her over to British naval surgeon Dr. William Dunlop, who induced Bartman to sail with him to London in 1810. He assured her that she could quickly make a fortune, but Dunlop intended himself to be the beneficiary of her European debut. Now, Bartman did not know she was about to enter an arena where she would become the object of unbridled medical curiosity and physical lust. Since the late 17th century, the koi had been regarded as the missing link between human and ape species. Theories that ranked ethnic groups consistently placed Bartman's koi people, like Oto Bangas, at the bottom of the evolutionary scale. On the basis of their supposedly overdeveloped genitals, Linnaeus classified as Koa as a divergent branch of humanity, one that he named Homo monstruosus. Homo monstruosus monorchidae. Homo monstrous monorchidae, relegating them to the back alleys of evolution. And in 1839, Samuel Morton describes the Hotentep as the nearest approximation to the lower animals. Buffon classed them with the monkeys. Koi women's dramatically endowed figures, and especially their large fleshly buttocks, medically termed steatopegia, steatopegia, medically termed steatopegia, were seen as markers for their sexual prowess. Francis Galton, the father of eugenics, waxed rhapsodic about the extravagant figures of these women, declaring that they must be the envy of the European belles. A popular ditty observed that the black African had not wit nor honesty to cover once his tail, hinting how much the Victorians had inferred about morality and intelligence from the relative nakedness of Africans. Most scientists agreed that the hot, damp tropical climate created a licentiousness and a sexual profligacy in African women that was unknown among European women. The ascendance of medical theories about the alien attributes of black women had created a strongly sexualized interest in koi women. And in 1819 Dictionary of Medical Science essay, ethnologist J.J. Viry described black women as possessing a voluptuousness and degree of lascivity far beyond any known to whites, abetting by their knowledge that many African people practice female circumcision. Scientists believe that African women in general, and koi women in particular, had oversized inner labia that hung down when they stood. Dunlap had accordingly arranged to put Bartman's body under anatomical scrutiny. Men in science made pilgrimages to London's academic and medical settings to sketch, measure, and endlessly analyze her steatopegious buttocks, steatopegious buttocks, and her extended inner labia, which they dubbed the Hottentot apron, the Hottentot. I've heard that name before, Hottentot apron, or the sinus pudorus, Latin for the veil of shame. Man. Her body suffered regular violations that alternated between rape and most intimate of medical examinations. One wonders whether she discerned much difference between them. She was displayed nude and bedecked in animal skins with accoutrements, spears, and bones, with that her handlers thought fitting for her Hottentot, as her people were disparagingly called by Europeans. Hottentot is an anomatopoeic onomatopoeic name invented by early Dutch colonists to describe the inimitable clicking sound of the Khoi language. But Westerners applied the term impressively to all sort of Southern Africans. Even Bartman's name was stripped from her and replaced with the sardonic subsequent Hottentotten Venus, and she was often portrayed with Cupid and the Western embodiment of carnal attraction perched on her ample buttocks. Thus, in stark contrast to the real white Venus of sublime but unattainable beauty, Bartman embodied not only the boundary between man and animal, but also the lure of the bestial, the base, and the grotesquely hypersexual. Bartman was not only the African woman was not only the only African woman to be exhibited as a Hottentot Venus, but she became an important exemplar of the medically exploitive display of Black peoples. One may be tempted to think that the display of Africans, such as Bartman, is unconnected to the plight of their enslaved African contemporaries, but medical scientists viewed them as the same peoples. This era saw the burgeoning of academic, ethnology. There we go. This era saw the burgeoning of academic ethnology, that branch the branch of anthropology devoted to the study of race, and what scientists thought true of Africans was also believed of African Negroes. There was some biological and much social basis to this belief. Although many African Americans sprang from an admixture of African, European, and Native American forebears, approximately 1 in 10 American Blacks was a Native African, even after slave importation officially ended about 1810. Also, exhibited Africans were often Black Americans who had been given manufactured exotic origins. But perhaps most important was the stubborn social denial of the widespread Black-white intermingling in America. Thus, scientists insisted that what could be said of Bartman's applied equally to her enslaved sisters in America. Over the next 5 years, Bartman met with the much rougher usage. She was made to stand naked at parties of the wealthy and the impersonate of chained and to impersonate, that sounds better. She was made to stand naked at parties of the wealthy and to impersonate a chained animal in garish Piccadilly, where the mob paid a shilling a head to gape and shout vulgarities. They began by staring at her in disgust, progressed into laughing at her, and ended by being aroused by her, because Black women were considered as shameless as European women were modest and chaste. Such behavior was possible even for Victorian gentlemen. I'll do that. Many accounts of Bartman's life insist that she was a completely helpless victim of European impresarios. But in 1810, Robert Wedderburn of Jamaica, founder of London's African Association, complained to the authorities that Bartman was being demeaned. Interestingly, Bartman denied before an English court that she was being held against her will and indicated that she appeared in order to earn a share of the attraction's profits. However, no contract was produced, and she probably received little or nothing of the hoped for profits, so she certainly was exploited. The next phase of her life, no room for ambiguous hopes. In 1814, London theater impresario Henry Taylor took her to Paris, where he paraded her in a degrading animalistic displays and circuses amid the talking pigs, animal monsters, and human oddities. Taylor sold Bartman to an animal trainer named Rowe, who provided her final descent when she was forced into a cage and made to behave like a wild beast. In 1815, the last year of her life, Bartman began drinking heavily, which may have contributed to her death from infectious illness at 27. And Western medicine was not finished with its Hottentot Venus. And in 1817, Baron George Cuvier, the French zoologist and sociologist, physiologist, who founded the field of comparative anatomy, dissected her body. He was not an objective observer, having around already been convinced of her people's inferiority. Their color is black, their hair crimped, their heads squashed, and their nose flat. Their protruding mouths and their thick lips are strikingly similar to those of the apes, and the people who compose this race have always been savages. And Cuvier cast Bartman's body into plaster in 1817, preserving her brain, her vulva, the anus in the glass jars, then stripping the flesh from her skeleton and hung it on display in Paris Musée de la Home. He noted that she had a way of putting her lips exactly like that we have observed in the orangutan. Her lips were monstrously large. Her ear was like that of many apes, being small. The tragus, the bit of cartilage that partially covers the opening of the ear, weak. These are animal characteristics. Cuvier had once noted that Bartman possessed a tenacious memory. She also spoke Dutch, English, and French, yet he left her this final assessment. These races with depressed and compressed skulls are condemned to a never-ending inferiority. Man, we're going to stop it right now. How many pages did I read? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from that. We're going to stop it right there at Dissecting History, Joyce Health. Let's stop it right there. Man, Miss Bartman, I have heard about her. We still got a long way to go in chapter 3. We got about 2 more episodes of Reading with SHILO till we can finish chapter 3. Yeah, we still got about that much left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, we might can finish it in one. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You know, most how I spend my life. Tomorrow, I'll be back tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning to pick up where we left off in chapter 3, Circus Africanus of the Medical Apartheid by Miss Harriet A. Washington. We'll pick back up at the paragraph of Dissecting History, Joyce Heth, and see what it's talking about. And if there's anything else that we can learn and grow from within Miss Washington's book about the medical apartheid. Man. I remember seeing the pictures of Miss Bartman out there years ago. Did it dirty. But, you know, for her to speak Dutch, French, what else she spoke? Dutch, English, and French, and to include whatever language her people spoke. And most times, Africans are known to speak multiple language and dialects within their own stuff. So, man, this lady probably could have spoke like 10 languages easily could have spoke 10 languages. And she was paraded for her ass. Nobody cared about her linguistics. You know, care about that ass. They still do the same way. It's still the same thing today. It's no different today. And it's becoming, from what I see, it's becoming to the point where they don't even have to ask you or even pay you or want to pay you like they were doing Miss Bartman or any of the other ones. So many women do it willingly. They show their ass willingly. They show all their stuff willingly. They don't need to, grab you. I'll do it. They won't say, shut your ass up. But anyway, we worked our bodies to start. We worked our mind. Definitely worked our mind with the medical apartheid. And now we're going to end off by working our body